Thank you all for coming. We are meeting at our fifth human, I think that's too strong. We are meeting at our fifth Human Glycome project meeting. It's so great to see all of you here. I hope we have 2 days of, well, a little bit too many presentation. I was hoping to make it a little bit more relaxed, but then again, it happens every time. So we'll have a lot of presentations, but there's still time for networking, at least in breaks and at dinners. So before we start with the science, I would like to give you a little bit of history. So the whole idea of the Human Glycome project started 8 years ago. We were meeting in Dubrovnik on one of the brainstorming meetings we had, and it was actually Claudio Franceschi who at one point said, we should start the Human Glycome project. And everybody liked that idea, so we were thinking how we can do it. And incidentally, a year later, I was organizing the General Glycobiology and Medicine Symposium again in Dubrovnik. And we wanted to start the Human Glycome project meeting there, but then I realized that Rick Cummings is doing the same thing in US. So he was starting the Human Glycome project in US. And then we said we don't want to have 2 Human Glycome projects. So we didn't call that meeting the Human Glycome project meeting, we called it the Human Glycome project initiative. Because we were still talking with Rick, how are we going to combine these 2 things and how to have a single Human Glycome project, which maybe is not the best idea because we are not really tightly interconnected with everything happening on the other continents, but we did decide to go with a single Human Glycome project. We decided to have it co-chaired by me and Rick, and we had the first Human Glycome project meeting a year later, again in Dubrovnik. So the first 3 events were happening in Dubrovnik, together with the Glycome conference. So it was kind of linked in the program of the Glycome. Glycome is a glycosilation in companies. It's actually, it was a Canadian initiative, still going on. So we met in Dubrovnik in 2018, and we listed over 200 people in 33 different projects who were kind of fitting together into the Human Glycome project. So this is the way we defined it in 2018. And then again, we had our second meeting. We switched the split together with the ISMS conference, which was taking place here, and many of you were here. You probably remember that we sailed to this beautiful villa and had this night party. So it was organized by the conference, not by us, but we were kind of piggybacking on their big party. So I think that was a nice meeting. And then we were hit by pandemics, so we didn't meet for 2 years, in 2020 and 2021. But in 2022, we met again here in this very same hotel for the 3rd meeting. And then we met again here for the 4th meeting. And now we are again here for the 5th meeting. So I like this hotel. I hope you're liking it because you are coming again and again. So I think we'll keep doing it here. Or we maybe switch again to Dubrovnik. We'll see. I have to find the money for these things. And we are recording all the presentations. So don't put things which you don't want to have broadcasted, because I think one of the key missions we have is education. So we want to educate the community. We have our YouTube channel with all the presentations for most of the meetings. We'll also put this year's presentation there. So also please advertise this channel and let other people use it, because it's not really widely used. And when we started the Human Glycome project, we said it's like putting man on the moon, on the Mars, not on the moon. So the Human Genome Project, when they started in the 80s, it was putting man on the Mars, because on the moon, because the genome is way more simpler than the glycome. But you know, I believe man will be on Mars soon, and I also believe we are going to understand the Human Glycome better soon. But there's a lot of work for us. So he will put us on the Mars, and I think we will put us to understand the Human Glycome. And you know, one of the first goals we defined at the beginning of the Human Glycome project was challenging. We said we want to analyze 100,000 human glycomes. It seemed a lot at that moment. But we did over 200,000 so far. So we are doing good. There was a recent review paper in Chemical Reviews which listed 191,000 published glycomes in a large glycomic studies. And we did it with some of the leading researchers from the non-glyco field all around the world. So there are more and more people thinking glycans are important. And I think it's important for us to go outside of the glyco community and talk about the importance of glycans, because when people see the evidence, they start believing. And I usually use this analogy of these two birds, saying, yes, this is a polypeptide, but you cannot really understand the function of a protein without the glycan part. So everything hairy on the surface of this S-glycoprotein of the SARS-CoV-2 virus is a glycan. You can't understand its function without glycans. Or for immunoglobulins, glycans are converting pro and anti-inflammatory functions of immunoglobulins. So you can't understand it. And then I usually use this video and say, you know, you can be the best scientist in the world, you can have all the money, you can have the perfectly planned and executed experiment, but if you're using this bird as a model, the closest to flight you could come would be this bird walking. Because bird without its feathers cannot fly, and a glycoprotein without its glycans cannot perform all the functions. So to really understand the function of glycoproteins, we need to include glycans. And of course, we all know glycation is something completely different. Unfortunately, medical field is confusing it a lot. So whenever they talk about glycosilation, they think about glycation, HbA1c, and so on. That's something completely different. So glycation is the random damage, taking a shotgun and firing at the protein. Glycosilation is these feathers of a bird. Something what is often neglected in this field, and I think this is heavily influenced by the Consortium of Functional Glycomics, who was focusing on glycan-protein interactions for glycan function, is that glycans are part of proteins. They're part of protein structure. They don't need to have a lectin receptor to have a function. They can have a conformational role as a part of a protein. But contrary to the polypeptide part, which is encoded in a single gene, so you need random mutation, either selection through generations to change a polypeptide part. Glycan part is encoded in a network of dozens or hundreds of proteins. This is a map of genes which regulate IgG glycosylation, which we mapped. So all the polymorphisms, all the genetic variants, all the epigenetic variation, all the environmental factors affecting this network will change these glycans. So from a functional aspect, alternative glycosylation is analogous to coding mutation. You put a different glycan, it's the same as if you put a different amino acid. And everybody knows that the coding mutation can kill you. So can alternative glycosylation. But from informational or evolutional aspect, glycome composition is a complex trait. It's inherited as a complex trait. So this enables diversity without the risk to genetic heritage. Because to change a protein, you need a mutation. Through glycosylation network, we can be different without changing our genes. And we have shown this for mice. We analyzed over 100 strains of mice from a collaborative cross cohort. So there were 8 founder mice, crossed for 3 generations, then inbred into strains. And some of these strains became completely structurally, functionally different in a heritable manner just by reshuffling the allelic variants. We are doing a lot of work trying to understand these genes, mapping the genes, doing all the functional experiments to confirm the function of each of the genes. There will be presentations about it. There are many people working on the function of immunoglobulin glycans, both within and outside of our team. So I think we are moving towards understanding. And actually, Jasminka did a lot of work to prepare, Jasminka did this one, Anna and Thea did a huge work to prepare the other review. We have 2 excellent reviews published a couple of months ago, so if you like it, please use it. We have a lot of media attention drawn through GlycanAge. So GlycanAge is developing into leading navigator of healthy aging. Thousands of clinics globally using it already. And I think we are really making good progress as the Human Glycome Project. So for this 5th meeting, we are joining forces with 2 European projects, the SynHealth and the Glycan Switch. So we'll have sessions which are kind of merged with these 2 projects. But before we move to science, I want to tell you a story. I want to tell you a story about Gaius Aurelius Valerius Diocletianus, who was one of the longest ruling Roman emperor and the only one who retired. So all other Roman emperors either died or were killed in office. This guy was ruling for so long that he decided he wants to retire. And he decided to choose the best spot in the Roman Empire at its peak, which was here. So actually built his palace for the retirement here. And when you look at Split today, you can still see walls and corners of the palace. So if you walk in a city, you can put your hand on a wall built by Diocletian nearly 2,000 years ago. It's still there, people still live here. He thought this was the best place in the world to retire. And I think this is the best place to come for conferences. And I think it's time to move on with the program. So the first part is more informational. So we'll have 4 presentations about the Human Glycome Atlas project, which started in Japan. Then we have a Zoom presentation by Wei Wang from China about the Human Glycome project activities in China. Then we'll have a presentation from the European Commission by Lucia Rubio Fernandez about the European Research Council, and then a short introduction into the 16th General Glycobiology and Medicine Symposium by Racine. So Ken, please, the floor is yours.